everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here to talk to you today about sliders. I believe that Quinn knew all along that the wrong Professor Slid, and he just didn't say anything. I don't believe that he knew right away, like in Season 2, but by Season 3, I believe he knew. Let's recap for those who might be unfamiliar. Okay, so sliders deal with a group of people. They jump through a vortex and then they slide to a parallel Earth. And there are millions and millions and millions of parallel Earths. Some Earths are similar to theirs, some are very different from theirs, and some are like similar to theirs but are slightly off. So, in the second season, in post-traumatic syndrome slide, the sliders believe that they are home. Halfway through the episode, the professor starts acting a little different. He's more aggressive, he's lying, he's stealing the timer, stuff like that. Then it's finally discovered that they are on a parallel Earth that is very similar to theirs. Then that's the discovery of when two professors are found out. One's good, one evil. The good one is ours, the bad one is the one from that world. Next thing you know, when they slide out of there, we, the audience, don't know which professor is which. It's one of the greatest mysteries of all. Now, I believe that the bad one slid, all because of his reaction, well, the good professor's reaction of when they slid. He was like, oh no. And the thing is kind of like, okay, why would the bad one say that if it's not his sliding tech, it's not his group of sliders, and he wasn't able to go on a parallel journey? I believe that the good one got left on that Earth and the bad one slid. In the Christmas episode of Season's Greetings, the sliders encounter a woman who leaves her baby with them. The next thing you know, she runs off and they can't find her. She works. Now, on to the point of this video. In Season 3, the professor pretty much acts the way the professor always does. He's nice, he's grumpy, he thinks he's better than everybody, he's argued with his friends, and he's always saving the day. Very much to our professor from the first two seasons. In the Christmas episode of Season's Greetings, the sliders encounter a woman who leaves her baby with them. The next thing you know, she runs off and they can't find her. She works in a mall in the sky. Yeah, that's the thing. The professor is very adamant about finding this woman. He wants to reunite her with her son. Wade feels kind of weird. She's kind of like, maybe the professor knew this woman on our Earth. And then before she can even finish the sentence, Quinn stops her and he's like, nah. Like he would have said something before. After he says that, he gives Wade a very strange and ominous look. Now, Season 3 is when they started to have conflict and a lot of growth in their characters. The sliders were constantly bickering and stuff. However, Quinn has never snapped at Wade in this way. He's never cut her off mid-sentence. And he's never given her a disturbed kind of look. He's giving her an upset look when he's jealous when she's with another guy, but he's never given her that look before. And I mean, when he cut her off mid-sentence before she even had a chance to finish her sentence. I always thought something was strange about that encounter, but like I said before, it was never revealed which professor was which, because by the third season the original showrunner had left, and then Fox brought in somebody new. And the actor who plays the professor, he couldn't get along with the people behind the scenes. He kept arguing to the point where they finally eventually pulled the trigger and killed his character off in the third season, halfway through. It is after his character dies that Quinn kind of goes on this little revenge journey to find the man who killed them. However, when he does go on this journey, Quinn does want him to pay. He wants this man to die, but Quinn's not as revenge crazy as Maggie Beckett. because Maggie Beckett, her husband died from this man also, and that man was also her side piece. Now, the reason why I think Quinn knew and didn't say anything is because, okay, the bad professor, like I said, the moment he slid with the sliders, he acted totally normal, just like the old professor. I believe that since that world they was on was extremely similar to theirs, it was just like a hair off. Everybody's personality on that other Earth was identical to that of Earth Prime, where the sliders come from. Well, except for Quinn, because he's from Chromat Prime. But everybody's like personality is like spot on. Quinn's mom, Wade's parents, Rembrandt's former manager. Every person they've ever encountered from back in the day acted exactly the same. So I believe this is why also I think like I thought the professor, our professor, was kind of like a shady person, because let us pretend that the professor of the parallel Earth, the bad professor, he was just like our professor. He acted exactly the same way, personality wise. He was scared to slide. Our professor was scared to slide in the pilot episode too. Eventually he does, because he feels that two 20-year-olds can't go joyriding through the multiverse by themselves. They need a babysitter. Plus, he's a scientist, so he's curious. In that same pilot episode, he tells Quinn, because they think they're finna get home in the next slide, he tells Quinn, as soon as we get home, I want to take a peek under the hood, meaning the timer. So it was always kind of weird that this, and then it was revealed in the second episode, the first episode of the second season. I meant to say that it was revealed that the professor is highly jealous of Quinn, because Quinn developed sliding and he didn't. And the professor can't figure out like how Quinn did it, because he's Quinn's professor at the college they go to. Now, in the first half of the third season, they're using the old original timer. And the old original timer does not have the ability to backtrack your slide, meaning the Earth you formerly came from, you can't go back there. It doesn't have that ability. This ability wouldn't happen until they get the Egyptian timer, when after Maggie's husband altered it so that not only can they track slides, but they can go back to the previous Earth that they slid from. And now they can also put in any coordinates they want if they knew the coordinates to any Earth, which the old timer couldn't do. So back in season 2, after the bad professor slid, it's never revealed how much time passes when they slide from season to season or even episode to episode. So let's just assume it's a couple of weeks, a couple of months. So a couple of weeks, a couple of months of sliding in the end of season 2, and then a couple of weeks and a couple of months in the first half of season 3. Quinn deduces that at some point that the wrong professor slid. Now, they don't have the ability to go back to that Earth in which the good professor is on. The good professor is now living his life of being a college professor and probably rich, because they was on the verge of being like very successful after discovering sliding. The bad professor acts just like the good professor and hasn't done anything wrong. Quinn sees the professor as his mentor and one of his greatest friends. So he's kind of like, you know what? I can't have my professor back, but at least I have another version that's pretty much identical to the old one. And since this new one hasn't done anything bad like he would have on that world he was on, Quinn just kind of like goes with the flow and just accepts this dude, you know? And he doesn't tell the others, because he doesn't want the other ones to like be all like, oh no, we don't want this guy and we have to get rid of this guy, because Quinn just wants the professor in his life, you know? And also there was kind of a couple of hints that did kind of show that in the third season that this was not our professor, and that they were probably going to kill him off. because they couldn't get along behind the scenes. In the second episode, in the second season, when all this craziness happened, it was discovered that the bad professor wear bifocals. Now, in the third season, there's an episode where pretty much it's like for entertainment, reality shows are real and you die in them. It's kind of like a combat survival type thing, kind of like Hunger Games. And so in that episode, the professor gets some light shined in his eye from an explosion, and it causing him to go temporarily blind. Now, of course, this can happen to anybody, but since that professor wear bifocals, it probably happened to him a whole lot more, and it didn't happen to the other sliders. Then there's that episode where Quinn meets his younger self. In that episode, it's revealed that the professor has a terminal illness that cannot be solved by medical science. On every world he visited, he got checked out, and nobody could cure him. And it's kind of weird that this like so-called magical disease will be killing him, and that there was never no mention of him ever being sick in no previous season. So it's kind of like only the people of that world that he came from could have this illness and could only be cured there. And so they travel to this other world that has this magic water, and the magic water cures him. So it's kind of like the writing was on the wall that, people behind the scenes were trying to kill this character off, but somebody just kept them around until that fatal episode where he gets shot. So yeah, that's why I think Quinn knew all along that somewhere in the third season that the wrong Professor Slid. And it was just kind of to the point where he just didn't care no more. He just wanted the professor in his life, and he had no way of getting the old professor back. Plus now the old professor is living it up on that world, supposedly, so Quinn's kind of just like, whatever. Anyways, I'll talk to you later. Bye.